Hello, everyone. Thanks for attending this webinar. So I am Jessica Self. I work for Police Conservation District, and I also have Stephanie Harper here, who is a conservation coordinator, as well as James Shireman and Andrew Wolf, who work for Police Rock Conservation District. So I'm going to spend the next about probably 45 minutes or so talking about the necessities for project management software and a general need for efficient operations within conservation districts. And I'm going to be using Smartsheet as an example for project management software to help implement these efficiencies. One second. Okay, so I'm first just going to give some background information. I started with Police Conservation District about a year and a half ago, and my position was a new position. It had been vacant for years. And with Police Conservation District, if any of you have been around for quite a while, it was a small district of 3 employees just a few years ago. And it drastically grew with increased funding. And with that, there were some challenges that the district faced. So when I first started working here, I spent about an hour with each employee, and I just wanted to gauge what their needs were for my position. So, you know, I wanted to know, obviously, since I'm the grants manager, I wanted to know about, you know, their grant writing experience and project management experience, but then also what were the challenges that they were personally facing within the district. And once I interviewed everyone, I was able to just kind of gauge an overall frustration with the lack of structure within the district. And most of it was probably due to growth, but as I go over these challenges, I think all of you can maybe reflect on the challenges that you are currently facing within your district, and I would assume that they probably align pretty well. So the first thing was the internal infrastructure was behind district growth. So it's really easy to hire people, but it's really hard to build an internal operations infrastructure. And then with that, there was just poor overall basic project management tracking. So budgets were managed by coordinators with personal project budgets, but then we also have a financial coordinator who was tracking budgets in her own little financial world, and they weren't integrating, and then budgets also weren't viewable by other staff as well. So if somebody left, hopefully that budget was passed on, but you never really knew. Also, deadline tracking. Deadlines were just kind of a theoretical thing. So, you know, everyone's busy and it's just really easy to miss deadlines when they're not tracked. And then the other big thing was deliverables for grants. So it's extremely important to meet deliverables for grants to have a successful grant and then get for successful funding in the future. Another big challenge was that the institutional knowledge and historical project data was not documented. So it was very much in everyone's head. So there were a few people who have been with the district for a few years who just kind of knew everything, and everyone had to bother those people to gain any type of information on historical projects. The other thing was staff workload allocation. So like I said, everyone's busy. I think it's just the natural challenge of working at a district. And when staff workload allocation is not tracked, it's really hard to understand when people are actually overworked and when workload allocation needs to be considered, and when projects potentially need to be allocated to another person. And you also just don't want burnout. Another challenge was that landowner point of contact and just the overall history of site visits, meetings were not tracked. So with that, you know, if a coordinator leaves, it's really hard to know what happened
I'm pretty sure
with.
I have a thing for him.
So I think there's somebody who doesn't have their mute button on. If they could turn that off.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he gave us one of those. What did I do? But I think that
So anyways, I'll just keep talking. But if you could put your phone on mute, that would be great. So the other issue was that there was dated financial reporting. So as far as vouchering, mileage, goods and services, and timesheet reporting, it was just very dated. And when I started working here and I submitted my timesheet. So when I actually started here and I had to submit a timesheet for the first time, I was taken back with how archaic it was using a spreadsheet to actually document your time. And that's just something that is time consuming. There's definitely room for mistakes, all of those things. So once I gathered all of these challenges, I wanted to take these on to improve the district efficiencies and then also help everyone within the district. So it was very apparent, and also minimal structure for onboarding, HR, and compensation. So it was very apparent that Palouse Conservation District needed to improve their project management skills and overall district operations. And when you take these two together and you think of a district kind of like a business, because, in reality, we are in a way, even though we are government agencies, it improves so many efficiencies. So the big thing is you're able to forecast and avoid setbacks, and that allows you to work smarter, and you're not playing catch up all the time. So overall transparency is important. So project management software increases accountability and it keeps everybody on the same page. So everyone can see everything at the same time. There's improved and increased landowner trust and satisfaction. So
it's in the Department of, I have to keep it with the report where I didn't pay taxes. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know what you're doing. Not on mute. It's coming across.
So anyways, with transparency, when a project is done on time and under budget, with clear expectations, landowners are happy, and also the funding agencies are happy. Enhance effectiveness and quality. So using templates within project management softwares provides consistency and consistency in deliverable tracking. And then overall, this will provide greater success of projects. And then the big thing that's really important for conservation districts, because we want to continue funding over the long term, is you have a greater standing with funding agencies. So superior performance will provide higher rates of securing awards with funding agencies. And then with that, you are able to expand your program areas. So with exceptional performance, you can expand services and program areas. And better flexibility. So when you are organized, you can adapt to any challenges that were unforeseen. If you are unorganized, it can be very stressful and things can fall through the cracks. And then the overarching quality for efficient project management and district operations is that you can do more. If you are more organized, you can implement more conservation projects because you are saving time. Okay, so with that, it's very important to have a project management software system of some sort. Using Excel spreadsheets and emailing is extremely inefficient. And there are many good project management softwares out there. So we use Smartsheet. I personally think that it is the best one out there, but it might not work for everyone. So if you do decide to move forward with a project management software, it's important to do your research and figure out what you need in your district and what type of software will help solve those problems. So we chose Smartsheet in-house after a lot of research. I have used Smartsheet in the past in the private sector, and I liked it, but that was a few years ago, and it has advanced greatly, and it continues to advance. And so after research, I am very confident that Smartsheet is the most advanced and the most well-rounded project management software out there. It's also extremely intuitive. It functions very much like an Excel spreadsheet, so it's just easy to use. You can just pick it up and start working. With that, there are advanced features in Smartsheet, so they have wonderful training modules and templates that you can use for inspiration when you're trying to solve a problem. It's extremely easy for non-subscribers to utilize, so we can share sheets with other funding sources or agencies, so they can kind of see what we're doing on the back end, and it's really easy to use. There's also mobile app integrations and other app integrations. So with the mobile app, I'm able to just access anything in Smartsheet at any time. I can pull up attachments, I can pull up contracts, I can pull up tracking sheets wherever I am. And I use it all the time on my phone in the office when I'm talking to other people and we're brainstorming. I can just pull up my phone and access that information. I don't have to go back to my computer. It's also integrates well with many different software programs. The dashboard feature in Smartsheet is wonderful for meeting presentations. It can link multiple sheets and report in real time what's going on with those projects. It also has a nice web form feature to gather data and spit into a spreadsheet. Other advantages with Smartsheet is customer service is outstanding. You can contact them at any time. They have, great web videos. It's 100% cloud-based, so it's accessible anytime, anywhere. It's highly secure. So 75% of Fortune 500 companies have vetted and approved Smartsheet and utilize it in some form. Also, many hospitals use Smartsheet over other project management software. And so with that, that's a high level of confidentiality that needs to be held. And so the fact that hospitals use Smartsheet is reassuring. And then also, it is reasonably priced. The licensing fee is $289 per license per year if you qualify for the nonprofit discount. So as wonderful as project management software is, there are challenges that you need to think about prior to purchasing. So one big thing is there's no project management software out there that is ready to use the day you start. You have to build it yourself in-house, so it must be engineered. So with that, if there is insufficient in-house expertise in project management, it's going to be slightly challenging to utilize any project management software in an advanced way. You can definitely use it to track as like tracking sheets and things like that, but you do need to have a project management mindset when building these sheets. Another challenge is there's always potential that your coworkers may be unwilling to learn new software and use those best management practices, and also be consistent with processes and templates. So what's really important is that when we adopted Smartsheet, we adopted it as a team. We all agreed that this was the way we were moving forward, and we were in it together. And over the past year and a half, a challenge that we have kind of dealt with is these legacy systems and infrastructure issues have just been those bumps in the road as we're trying to move forward with efficiency. So it's really important to be open-minded and adaptable and brainstorm with your coworkers. So with that, I'm going to start showing you some sheets that we are utilizing and how we're utilizing Smartsheet. So I'm going to start slightly basic. So when we first purchased Smartsheet, I really wanted to just use it more than anything for tracking progress on grant writing and then also grant deliverables. So here's a spreadsheet of one of our grant applications for ecology this past fall. And when you when you utilize these sheets, you can see that there is just so much work that needs to be done when applying for a grant. And if you just have all these deliverables within a grant application in your head, it can get slightly overwhelming and you can lose track of what needs to be done by the deadline. So just taking an RFA and then putting it into a sheet just helps provide clarity, and then you can assign tasks to people. So within the sheet, you can see that there's letters of support, there's our budget tasks, the technical report, and then all of those fun attachments and busy work things that usually happen right before the grant's due. So what we do is we sit down as a team and we start divvying out tasks, and then from there we start tracking what's going on. So you can see in Smartsheet there are these attachment columns, and so you can attach up to 500 attachments within one row of Smartsheet. Smartsheet can also allow for 5,000 rows within one sheet. So you can actually capture a lot of information in just one sheet. So here we have an attachment which is actually a link to our Google Docs spreadsheet where all of us were working on the narrative for the grant. So just within the sheet, it's just one click away to access that document. Another thing is that there's a comment section where I can what's called @mention various people working on the project, and it will just ping them, and I can send them a quick note. So I don't have to email, which is wonderful. And then it's just captured in the sheet. So anyways, so with that, it's just nice to have everything on one screen. You can track the status. While we were applying for these grants, I was actually out of town. So I could just kind of see and gauge where we were in the application status and contact people if needed. And this just really helps everyone stay on the same page, everyone's held accountable, and we can submit high quality grants on time without a lot of stress. So another thing when applying for grants, it's good to have a nice solid budget that's justified. So this is just a nice working budget that we could all work on together at the same time, and just make sure that our numbers were just coming out correctly across objectives within the grant, and then also that we were reporting cash match correctly and meeting what we needed to do for overhead and things like that. And then from there, we can create a nice budget that we can use actually for reporting. So with that other budget, we were able to put it into a nice presentable budget for ecology, and you can just export this out to a PDF, and you can add various features, you can add a header, and then yep, you can just attach it straight to the grant application. So it looks nice and clean and professional. And then the last thing that we do with grant applications is we create the project schedules within Smartsheet. So it has a wonderful Gantt view, so that we can just create a PDF just like we did for the budget and throw it into our grant application, and it looks very clean, very solid, and it's vetted. Okay, so now I'm going to show you our dashboard, which is, I think, pretty fantastic. Our staff use this dashboard every day. We use it for everything. So you can just kind of see here, this is a one-stop shop for staff within Palouse Conservation District. So our policy and procedure handbook is right here. Our staff contact list is right here, as well as our board of supervisors. Our sign in, sign out board, and our Google Drive that we still utilize like for grant writing. And then down here are various operation widgets. Staff resources, so this is where we now report our time electronically. This is our payroll calendar, per diem rates, pay scale classification that we have adopted. This is how we get staff input for our weekly staff meetings. And then also we have nice links to reporting. So the first thing I'm going to show you, we're just going to kind of transition into operations organizations, is job codes. So if you do not have job codes at your district, I highly recommend that you put this on your priority list for operations efficiencies. So job codes are just a wonderful way to track charging across all funding sources down to the objective. So you can see, you can do some research if you would like on how to create a job code, but we just kept it pretty simple here in-house. So what we do is the first section of a job code is the funding source. The next two numbers are the year that the funding source began. And then from there, just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, however far it goes. And then within that, you can have the objective. So this one is WCC 1701. That's the actual funding source job code. But within that, there's point 1, which is TA and administration. So that is where we charge our time to. And then implementation, that's where we charge any implementation costs to. So it's able to, as we report on these charges, we're able to filter out where these charges are going. And then those can be linked into budgets. So it's nice and clean. So that's our job code. So we have job codes throughout the district. There isn't anything that isn't tracked. And as far as overhead donations, inventory, vehicle maintenance, we didn't create a job code. It's just those right there. And then from there, we assign a grant administrator. So who is overseeing those particular grants? Those people are the ones approving charges to those job codes. The next thing is goods and services and vehicle mileage. So we no longer do any paper documentation or reporting of goods and services or vehicle mileage. It's all electronic now. So a goods and services web form, so if there's any charge to the district, it is captured through this web form. So staff can pull this up on their phone with the Smartsheet app or on their computer and just start filling out a goods and services web form. So date, employee, job code, and then if there's a specific project that it needs to be charged to, it's there. So anything in a cost share agreement can be charged down to that project. And then they attach a receipt. And what's great is if you submit this over your phone, you can just take a photo of the receipt and attach it straight into the web form. It's extremely easy to use. And then you just push submit. So on the grant administrator side, when somebody submits a form that is linked to a grant that I am overseeing, I get an email from Smartsheet saying that there's something for me to approve. And it's very easy and intuitive. So I just click that web form and I can see what was submitted. So this is just an example. So I can just look and see what the charge was, and then I can access the attachment, which is just a photo of our logo. But I can just make sure that what was charged is correct with the receipt, and then I can either choose to approve or decline. If I choose to approve, the person that submitted that web form will get a notification that I have approved that charge. The same goes for vehicle mileage. We have web forms for that, what type of vehicle, which vehicle was used, or your personal vehicle. And then also another nice feature is a leave request web form. So someone can ask for time off, who their supervisor is, who their backup contact is. And then the same thing like the goods and services approval, I would get an email asking to approve that leave request. And then linked within the leave request is a leave request calendar, which is viewable to all staff to see who is out on leave. And then we also have other things, office supply requests, equipment checkout. It's just a very simple form. And an IT ticket. So if we have any IT issues, someone can submit it here, and then we can alert our IT, the IT company that helps us. So I'm going to go into reporting now. So we have a reporting portal, and these are all web forms that we use to capture data on a monthly basis across various funding sources to roll up and submit vouchers. So RCPP is one really big one. It's complex, so we have multiple web forms that are needed. We also use it for VSP, RCPP commission funding, and ecology. So I'm going to use ecology as an example. So on a monthly basis, anyone who is working on an ecology project fills this out. And they fill it out by summarizing what they did within a deliverable within one of our ecology grants. So as you can see, we have a lot of ecology grants. So this is a way to keep things organized and efficient. So it's easy for me to report, and it's easy for ecology to review. So what they do is they just fill out all their information. This is all pertinent information based on what needs to be reported in Eagle. And then they can just submit the information. So on the back end, when somebody submits a web form, it gets spit out into a sheet. And then from there, so these are all web forms that have been submitted since we just started this in January. From there, I can filter by funding source, by grant, and by month, and start compiling summaries of what's been done across all deliverables within the grant, and then also start compiling any quantitative deliverables that we need to report within Eagle. So it makes things much easier on my end, and it's cleaner for everybody. So the next thing that I want to show you as far as grant tracking is how we track just basic project management and deliverables within a grant. So we're going to use one of our ecology grants. It's our FY18 Direct Seed grant. So at the top of this page is just teasing out all of the tasks that need to be met across all objectives within this grant. So it's very basic, but it's just a nice place to access all of this. In addition, I always put the scope of work contract in here so that it's easily accessible to anyone at any time. And then down here is where, kind of the nitty-gritty comes in of project implementation tracking. So we have created a project tracking checklist. This has been in the works for years, and it was in an Excel spreadsheet, and we transferred it over into Smartsheet so that we can just track what needs to be done. So it's divvied out with preliminary tasks, actual implementation tasks, and post-implementation and reporting. So right now, because these grants are just starting, we're pretty much in the preliminary section. So with this one, you can just see just everything that needs to be done and checked off before implementation can start. So, site visits with the landowner, entering information into project databases, conservation plan, BMP approval form, all the landowner signatures, getting that cost share agreement to the board, and then from there, photos, permits, cultural resources. So once these are all complete, then this thing can kind of be minimized, and you start looking at what needs to be done within the implementation phase. So these are all the things that need to happen. And then once project is wrapping up, it's a nice tracker for what needs to happen after implementation. So that's how we in-house track all of our grants. But on the reporting side, so that it is transparent with funding agencies, we utilize Smartsheet so that I know, especially with all of our ecology grants, I know that the project manager at ecology is seeing the same thing we're seeing, because reporting systems within funding agencies can be clunky. It's also hard to see overall what's going on. So this is just a nice summary of cost share agreements that we currently have going. And what's great about any sheet is that you can publish it. So this is how you can share with somebody else without that person needing a license. So there are multiple options. So there's just the basic read only, which is whatever your sheet looks like. You can't do anything with it. It's just a read only document. There's the advanced version, which the viewer can basically, you know, minimize and expand rows, also access attachments, but they can't edit anything. If you click on a cell, nothing happens. And then the other version, which is great, is an edit by anyone. So if you are working with someone outside of your district that does not have a Smartsheet license, but you need them to go in and actually edit, you can, oh, that cell's blocked, but you can edit in this version. So there's no need for any like temporary user or anything like that. It's just very easy, and it's just through a web page. And what's nice is that at any time you can choose to turn off that version. So if anyone were to try to access that link later, they wouldn't be able to because it's turned off. So the other big thing that we're doing with Ecology is this Deliverable Tracker sheet. So this is just a summary of all of our grants down to deliverables and objectives. And it's just going to be a summary of objectives. So every time we report to Ecology, it's just reporting on what was done that month. This is actually compiling a summary of what has been done over the life of the grant, so that we are tracking how we are meeting these objectives. And so we will be sharing the sheet with Ecology so that they can see how we are tracking the overall grant, and we can make sure we're on the same page. The last thing you want is to assume that the way that you're reporting is the way that the funding agency is reporting or tracking, and then when the grant's about to end, your deliverables aren't met. So anyway, so that's how we're using this sheet. And another thing with this sheet is we have this linked to an actual dashboard for our Palouse Conservation District board, as well as Ecology to use to just kind of see what's going on. So here's the dashboard. So this has every single Ecology grant that we have and what the status is. So this dashboard is linked to various sheets, but it is reporting live. So overall, percent complete based on meeting deliverables, how much money has been spent out, how much remains, and so on. And then there's what's nice, because we have so many grants, it's nice to have a little summary of what each grant is about. So our board has a better understanding of what's going on. Anyone in-house, if they want to learn a little bit more about our grants, just has a little nice summary. And then you can also click on these tables, which will take you to a tracker sheet of what's going on with deliverables and with a nice little Gantt view. And then the last thing with project management reporting is how we voucher and how we stay on schedule to make sure that we are vouchering on time and we don't get into any cash flow issues. So this is kind of a complex table, but it is very useful. So here is these are the steps in how we report to Ecology on a monthly basis. So these are the 4 grants that are currently live right now that we are reporting on. And we have deadlines. So the beginning of the month, staff is required to submit those web forms that I just showed. And then now I'm currently working on compiling all of those web forms and putting them into Eagle for reporting. And at the same time, our financial coordinator is putting the finances into Eagle. Once we have both of those in, then I can go in and QA QC everything that was submitted on the financial side, and grant, whatever coordinator is managing that particular grant can make sure what I'm putting into Eagle looks correct for them. So it's just a nice double checker, and then we can submit to Ecology, and then we just keep track of when we received that payment. And so we do that for all of our funding sources. If anything is behind, so say we didn't have all the web forms in, the line will show up red. So it's easy to just draw attention to the fact that, web forms weren't submitted from this particular grant. Okay, so now I'm going to hand the mouse over to Stephanie Harper, our conservation coordinator, and she's going to talk about project tracking.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. I am a conservation coordinator here at the district, and I started approximately 6 months ago. So I came in after Smartsheet had already been established and running smoothly. But I just wanted to highlight on how we help track all of the landowners that come to us for assistance. Because as someone who is new and came into the district, it's very evident that the district grew quickly, and then we had some turnover, and we wanted to make sure that in the future, if this happens again, that we are able to go back and have a record of people that have come through the door and projects that we've actually worked on. So Jessica did a really good job of going over these broader project management things that you can do in Smartsheet, but I want to kind of dial it back a little bit and talk about how I, as a coordinator, am using Smartsheet for my day-to-day tasks. So on our website, we have this really awesome how can we help you link, and a landowner can go to our website and click on this, and it'll bring up our Smartsheet form. And this is basically how they can communicate to us, or one way that they can communicate to us that we, or that they need help on their land. So they fill out this web form and submit as much information as they would like to about their land. And then this gets placed into a Smartsheet that we are able to track each one of these landowners. So once they submit this, it automatically populates into this sheet. And then it pings Jessica that a new landowner has filled out the form, and she goes in and she assigns a planner or a coordinator to each one of these landowners. And then, as she talked about, you can communicate in Smartsheet, and so she sends an email to each one of these in order to let them know that they've been assigned to this landowner. And then coordinators have, we've set it up so they have 48 hours to go in here. There's a phone number and an email to contact this landowner. And then there's also a lot of information in here that the coordinator can input when they called them, how they called them, or how they contacted them, and then the status that will allow us to know if they need further assistance or if we've actually helped them and they don't need any more assistance. One thing that we get a lot on the How Can We Help You is being set up for our mailing list. So a lot of those are really simple, and they get added to the list. And then once we've helped somebody, we place them down here in our archive file. So the biggest thing for us is that we wanted to know kind of this tracking of when did a landowner come in, who was helping them, and what was kind of that final step. So maybe they came in, they needed TA, I assisted them, put the notes in, and then we drag it down here to the archive so that we already have this list. Now, if a landowner comes in and they need assistance and it turns out that we have funding for what they're interested in, or they would fit into a funding source. They then get transferred to this pending project tracker. And this is basically the next step after we've gone into the field and talked with this landowner and assessed their needs. So as Jessica mentioned, we have a lot of funding sources, and so we try to place these landowners where we think they would be eligible for funding. And then this also allows the coordinator to fill in more information. So what are their interests? Which district are they working in? Is it on a 303D listed stream? And then again, more notes if needed. And what we as coordinators are using this as not only to track who's interested in funding, but we're also using it as a way to rank these landowners. So a lot of times we have more landowners than we have funding, and in order to kind of be able to fairly assist them, we have put together kind of our own internal ranking system, and we use this information that's on here to determine the highest ranking. And then we also, once we've ranked them, we will kind of list their ranking, their estimated budget, and these landowners will hang out in this pending project tracker until we know that we have those eligible funds to move them into the next sheet that we use, which is our active project tracker. So, oh wait, I want to go back there for a second. So again, none of this information gets deleted once they move into the active project tracker. We have another archive section here. So this is where all of that information that we've collected goes once we were able to put them onto our active project tracker. So this way, we're not deleting any of that information, and we're kind of leaving this trail for somebody to pick up if they needed to in the future. So what we do is we come in here to our active project tracker, and we have them placed under each one of our grants, and the lead coordinator and backup coordinator assigned. And this is basically just to have all of our landowners on all of our grants tracked, but it also allows managers to track the time allocation. So if we go in here one day and we notice that Drew has all the landowners and I have nobody, then managers are able to say, hey, is Drew having more work than other coordinators in our office? And it helps us kind of keep things a little bit more even, and also making sure that anybody who is managing a grant can easily say, hey, I know that you're working on this project, you know, what's the status, or what needs to be inputted into those other sheets that Jessica had mentioned. So again, just a way that we have been working to make sure that none of our landowners fall through the cracks. Obviously, as a district, customer service is our #1 goal here, and we want to be able to have somebody lead the district and be able to pull up all of their past landowners that they've helped and all of their notes associated with those landowners. And yeah, I'm going to hand it back to Jessica.
Okay, so the last thing I'm going to show everyone is how we now run our board meetings. And we do this through Smartsheet. And we have created a board meeting dashboard for the board. So what we try to do, our goal is to always try to finalize our dashboard for the meeting 1 week prior to the board meeting, so that all board supervisors have time to review contracts, review the agenda, and any managers or directors' reports, so that they are a little more prepared when they walk into the door for their monthly board meeting. So here is just a quick link to the meeting agenda that they can view. We also use this to run the meeting. So we do have a projector, and we just kind of flow through the meeting using this dashboard. Previous meeting notes. We always try to, Jody Prout, our Ed and Outreach coordinator, always puts together a wonderful conservation success report. There's our financial reports, our managers reports, and contracts. And then potentially if there are any upcoming events, and then some nice links for them. So within managers reports, I've continued utilizing Smartsheet so that it's not just a Word document. I now have my own dashboard for my monthly managers report. So within this dashboard, this is just a great place. So I just try to think of the board supervisors being as knowledgeable as possible on all of our funding sources and what the status is of them. So they can ask me at any time what's going on if they're worried about something or just interested. They can just kind of go to this dashboard, and if they have extra questions, they can come and talk to me. So these are all of the grants that are administered by me and their current status. If there's anything I want to discuss over here, I can just put little notes. Also, I just have a little blurb of my highlights for the month, and then a little table here of upcoming or new grants. So in case during the board meeting they want to learn more about those grants, they can ask. And then I also have a link to that fulfillment status dashboard so that they can access this whenever they can or whenever they want to. I will also be doing the same thing for commission funding sources during the next biennium. And then we are currently working on a CTD dashboard through CTD. So this is there for them as well. So yeah, so this is how, kind of in a nutshell, how we use Smartsheet. We use it in many other ways. Just to go back. Anyways, so we will be giving a WADE presentation as well. It will be on Monday at 3 o'clock. And I will probably be going over some of what we addressed, but I think we'll be taking a deeper dive into how we allocate salary or forecast salary for the fiscal year, how we put together annual plans, how we utilize it for education outreach, HR, and any feedback from today. If anyone's interested in learning a little bit more about how we utilize Smartsheet, I can incorporate that. I will now turn it over to anyone who has questions. And I believe it's, I gotta pull this up. I believe we're sharing because I could hear somebody. Questions?
So I think if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. And I don't know how to unmute people. Okay, I haven't used GoToMeeting before, but I think if you have a question, you can place it in the chat, and then we can address those questions as they come in. I don't think we have the ability to turn on audio, so.
So here's one question. How does your staff feel about Smartsheet use in conjunction with all other databases from funders, such as CPDS? That's a great question. So we have discussed this quite a bit as we are building Smartsheet. You know, what's doing too much, right? Double reporting or, you know, those kinds of things. So my example with ecology was where we are trying to utilize everything that Eagle requires and needs for reporting, but also taking it a step further and being a little more organized. With CPDS, we are still working on how we can integrate the two to be more streamlined, so we're not gathering information through Smartsheet, which we feel is more efficient. internally because because everything's linked so much, and then transferred over to CPDS. So yeah, we are working on that. What kinds of see, so another question is, can you talk about how you handle landowners, public, or board members who are not comfortable or able to use online tools? Yeah, so especially with landowners, we never want to force technology on them if they're not willing or comfortable using it. So especially with our request for assistance, a lot of times we as staff fill out that web form ourselves while we have a conversation with the landowner, so that they don't have to feel like they don't want to use it. As far as staff goes, we have enrolled the staff in various trainings for Smartsheet over the first year. We actually signed up for what is called Center of Excellence with Smartsheet, and it was various webinars that you could work through so that you could basically, by the time you're done, use Smartsheet in any form that you would like to. And then, of course, you know, there are different skill sets, and some people just aren't as tech savvy as others. So we're all here to try to help each other out and learn together. And, you know, we've had it for a year, or over a year now, and now, you know, everybody uses Smartsheet. And, you know, there are those glitches, but we just, you know, me personally, I try to make it as easy as possible for everyone to use. And if someone is having troubles, I try to figure out why and fix it. So how do you use this info for costing, timekeeping, and accounting? So I'm going to be going into more detail about that with at Wade. But one thing I can show you is that when someone submits a goods and services web form, so we can use that. What we do on the financial side is, because we have those job codes, which is extremely important, we can filter every charge coming into the grant, into Smartsheet by job code, and then we can filter by month. So then what we can do is take this sheet and roll up a report for grants for within each deliverable, how much was charged, and then also right here attached to every line item is the receipt. So this is a one-stop shop, and it takes less than 1 minute to roll up a monthly report for any grant. And then you can access those receipts. We also print out receipts for paper copies because that's needed. So it's very, very easy to improve efficiencies for accounting. We do the same thing for mileage and time tracking. How does Smartsheet comply with public records requests? So that does take a little more, it takes a little more work, I guess, but what you can do, I mean, Smartsheet is capable for presenting, providing auditing trails, and we are working on having all of our reporting systems, so our voucher requests, instead of doing that spreadsheet that I think we all use, we are going to create a form on Smartsheet that we can DocuSign and timestamp and use those for all of our voucher requests. So as far as records requests specifically, I can't really answer that because I'm not the financial coordinator here, but I can talk with her and we can provide that information at Wade. How does Smartsheet Calendar sync with Outlook? We haven't used that yet. It is possible because they do, Outlook and Smartsheet does integrate, but we don't schedule. That is the one clunky thing that we still have here is that we still use Outlook for scheduling meetings and things like that. We don't utilize Smartsheet for that. Not saying that you can't, but right now that isn't something that we put on our priority list. How large is your office? How many licenses do you have? So our office has 16 full-time staff plus 5 AmeriCorps members, and we have 18 licenses. So AmeriCorps members share 1 license, our Board of Supervisors shares a license, and then we all have our own license. However, I do have Spruce Rock Lake CD here because they are a small district of 3 staff. So if anyone has any questions regarding how it's utilized at Spruce Rock Lake, now's the time to ask because they're here. So what training do you need to create web forms and dashboards? It's probably so it's just a webinar on Smartsheet. For web forms, it's like a 5-minute training. It's super easy to create a web form. So I can just kind of show you. There's just this Forms tab, Manage Forms. So you can edit a form that we currently have. It's very easy and user-friendly. You can create as many web forms as you want for one sheet. So if you're only wanting to gather information, like just a couple columns out of this sheet in particular, you can create a web form for that. You can create a different web form to gather more information, and web forms are very simple. Oh, can you provide a basic set of templates? Absolutely. So number one, we can create our own templates, which we do here. And so that's another thing if anyone is interested in hopping on the Smartsheet train. We do have templates. So our project management template, our budget template, grant application template, new employee checklist template. We're going to be creating a mileage, goods and services, time tracking template that we're going to be sharing with Spruce Rock Lake CD because they are in small districts and they don't have someone in my position that has the time to create these from scratch. So so we are helping them kind of speed the process of onboarding with Smartsheet by sharing templates with them so that they don't have to recreate the wheel. So if anyone wants to utilize Smartsheet, we can easily just share a template and you can use it. On top of that is there are amazing templates here. So you can just choose to create a sheet or you can browse here. So there's finance and accounting, and there are just all of these amazing templates already created. It just goes on and on. So yeah, contracts, strategic plans, department forecasts, general management things. So let's see, so the vacation things, forecasting, strategies, all those things. Human resources, we've used a lot of templates here. So the new hire checklist, job application forms, we now track how we are doing interviews and just the basic advertising of job applications, checklists for evaluations, and the onboarding we really use a lot. IT, and so anyways, you can just kind of click around. I mean, I can just kind of click around here forever and just get so many ideas.
So if somebody comes into the office or calls you, do you add them to the landowner sheet? So that request for assistance is mostly just for that, request for assistance. So if somebody comes in or calls and says, hey, I have this issue on my land, I need, help, or if they want to be added to our mailing list, then any employee can add them to the sheet. The only issue if you add them manually to the sheet is that it won't ping Jessica, and so you have to be sure to tell somebody that you've added this person to the sheet. I personally have my own tracking for call logs, especially for NRCS. The CPA 6 requires you to write all of your communications with the landowner. So I personally have my own way to track phone calls and conversations with landowners that I'm working with. But as far as the request for assistance, they can do it themselves. They can come in and we can walk them through it, or they can call and we can put them on as an employee.
So one question was, how does Smartsheet work with other PCD data storage and filing systems? So one thing we are trying to do is to just convert over to Smartsheet, but obviously that's going to take time. We still have a P drive, a public drive that we have stored on our server, but we are in the process of cleaning that up and only utilizing that filing system as necessary and trying to transfer everything into Smartsheet so that it is accessible and linkable. But that's going to take time, and in no way is that going to happen overnight. So I kind of have just had like 6-month goals and just continued to work from there. And that leads me into the other question that we have: how long to build these systems within PCD? So like I said, we've had it for about 1.5 years. It was very easy to just do the basic like grant management tracking and things like that. But as far as taking that bigger step and creating web forms for gathering financial reporting, that takes a little bit more time. So you have to, it's not going to happen overnight. And that's where it goes back to those challenges of, it's best if everyone can work together and brainstorm together and just try to figure out, within your district, what's working, what's not working, and then find those solutions. Very soon, in the next 6 months, I'm hoping to have all budgets linked with our time tracking for salaries, goods and services, and mileage, so that the moment anyone submits a web form, it is automatically linked to every single budget within Smartsheet, so that we at any time in real time know the budget. We don't have to go diving through spreadsheets or voucher reports or anything like that. It's there, and you don't have to worry. And that's just right around the corner. And I have worked with Smartsheet representatives to create specific formulas to pull job codes, to sum those, and then link to other sheets. So Smartsheet representatives are available to help with that, and they have been extremely helpful when I'm just kind of at a roadblock or I feel a little overwhelmed. I call them and they help me build it. Is there any way to copy some of your templates? Oh yeah, so it looks like that was probably an older question. Yeah, so absolutely. If anyone's using Smartsheet and wants templates, I can share them and you can instantly have them and tweak them however you need. Let's see.
Oh yeah.
How does public records retention work with Smartsheet? I don't know if I completely understand that question. Oh, and do you have concerns with using personal phones with Smartsheet? I have no concerns with using personal phones because you log in using your account. And then, yeah, it's never been a worry to me. It's been more of just a huge advantage. Yeah. Did you or any corporation of the past,
Data into,
I don't know what that means.
how do you incorporate any past data into your new system, into Smartsheet, and was it easy? So like all the Excel files into.
So one amazing thing is that if there's something in an Excel spreadsheet, you literally highlight the spreadsheet, copy, and paste it into Smartsheet. And then you can just rename your columns. It's super easy. You can also take a sheet in Smartsheet and export it out into Excel if you need to do that. If it's specific for a reporting requirement or someone just wants to, who knows why, but would want to use Excel over Smartsheet. It's very easy. And then as far as compiling, the one big challenge that we've had, but it's been great, is taking all of our historical data of all projects that have gone through Palouse CD and now putting it into Smartsheet. And the one program to thank for that is VSP. So with the Voluntary Stewardship Program, it's needed, right? You need all of that historical data to have for a baseline for reporting for VSP. So as a district, we actually had like a historical database day where we went into our filing cabinets and read through cost share agreements and then put them all into a spreadsheet in Excel at the time because we had just kicked off Smartsheet. So now we have all of our historical data in a one spreadsheet, and we can just take that, copy it, and paste it right into Smartsheet. So now what we can do is, because we have this active project tracker, when those projects close out, we can just link those straight into the historical. So we go from requests for assistance to pending projects to active projects to historical data.
I'll just read these out to you, it's easier. Please show a treasurer's report and grant voucher and where that information comes from in Smartsheet.
Go in. Okay. So let's see here. That's a big question. So can you say all the things again? Treasurer's report?
Can you show a treasurer's report and voucher and where that information comes from in Smartsheet?
So currently, our treasurer's report is still created within Excel by our finance coordinator. So here's our board meeting dashboard, and then from there, it just links out to the actual like Word document spreadsheet. So that eventually, that's, you know, we just take it step by step. So that still is not integrated in Smartsheet yet. That's spit out through QuickBooks. And it's QuickBooks Desktop, so that takes a little more tweaking to integrate into Smartsheet, but it's absolutely doable. And then what was the next part of it?
I think that's it.
Okay.
How much time went into developing, building all your Smartsheets? I think you've answered that.
Mm-hmm.
How does this integrate with financial software?
So, like I said, right now it currently doesn't integrate because we use QuickBooks Desktop, and QuickBooks Desktop is needed for what we need to account for in the district. But when we want to move to the next step of integrating QuickBooks with Smartsheet, there is an app called Zapier, and that app integration can spit out information from QuickBooks to Smartsheet. In the interim, all we would have to do is export data from QuickBooks into an Excel form and then take that Excel form and then integrate it into Smartsheet. And that would take, I would say, 5 minutes. So it's not too long.
Can you submit a Smartsheet report as a grant voucher, or do you still need to use the grant agency voucher format?
Absolutely. So let's, I can show you really quick how we report for VSP. So VSP is a more simple grant, but what we do is we have, within Whitman County is a little unique as in that we have 4 districts within the county. So we have multiple districts reporting on a monthly basis for Whitman County VSP. And so when they submit their web form, it just fits in here. And so we have April here. Brad Johnson, our VSP coordinator manager, is compiling this right now. So it spits out here. He can, double check timesheets with the hours that were reported and double check comp rates. Here's mileage. There's an auto calculation of overhead, goods and services charges. And then from here, I'll just show you a little complex, this is the complex calculation that I was talking about. So here, this pulls, this little table, a summing table, where it pulls the last name, so this is mine. Every time I submit a web form, it pulls my name, and it also pulls the dollar amount that was charged to task 1, and it sums it there. And there's task 2, there's task 3, there's the total, there's overhead. From there, it actually automatically spits out into the tracking budget. But as far as reporting goes, you can report using a roll-up report right here. So that's another feature that I didn't show just to save some time and not be too overwhelming, is that you can roll up reports in Smartsheet by pulling various sheets. So what this is pulling is everything that needs to be used to voucher for VSP on a monthly basis: total salary, overhead, mileage, all of those things. And then from there, you can export it out to a PDF. And there's a little subheader here. And here is the monthly voucher report. So we just print this sheet out and we put in all the backup timesheets, any receipts or mileage logs. We put them as backup, and then we can submit this straight to the funding agency. We utilize this reporting system for RCPD as well. Like I said, with ecology, we don't. It's not really useful because we have to put every line item within Eagle. So we don't use it. But yes, we definitely utilize vouchering completely through Smartsheet.
Can you show a sample timesheet?
So we do not, that is one thing. We tried really, really hard to just do time reporting in Smartsheet. Smartsheet isn't quite smart enough, but I'm hopeful that in the next couple of years, we'll actually be able to use Smartsheet as a smart time sheet software. We did some research and we have chosen to adopt T-Sheets, which is made by the founder of QuickBooks. I think it's Intuit. So staff can report time here, and then it is data dumped into QuickBooks for payroll. But one thing that it can do is you can do like a payroll report by job code and export that out into an Excel sheet and then dump that into Smartsheet. And then as far as how we're tracking time, we are almost there with streamlining all of this. So each staff has a time tracking hour sheet. So this is, I'll just use one person here. So I'll use Jody. This is how their hours are allocated over a fiscal year by funding source down to objective, down to that job code. So here is just how, like on a monthly basis, we update these spreadsheets. It's very quick. How many hours were charged to each grant. And then from here is hours utilized to hours remaining, so that when anyone fills out their timesheet, they can see, you know, if they have enough hours, and if they're running out, they can contact their supervisor. And then this sums the total salary charged. And then soon we're going to be linking these salary charges out to the budget sheet, so that on a monthly basis, the budget sheets will be updated with the salary charge per employee. So this is helpful for budgeting, and it's also helpful for each staff member to see how they've been charging hours across funding sources and if there are any changes that need to be made.
So the next question is just asking for the monthly cost of subscription.
So we pay by year. I think you can pay monthly, but it's more expensive. So the monthly cost or the yearly cost is $289 per license per year. And that is qualifying with a nonprofit discount. So we have 18 licenses, which amounts to a little over $5,000 a year, which we've done the math, divide that by a comp rate, and hours saved, it definitely pays for itself.
Next question, is there a way to approve records and once approved, freeze the record from unauthorized revision?
Yes, so you can lock any row. So you can just go into, you just pick one. I believe, yes. So you can see right here this little locked button. So we can lock this row so that no one can go in and change a number that has been allocated by management. So you can do the same for any financial record as well.
All right, next question. Will you be able to make your WADE presentation available to others who aren't attending WADE?
I can ask. I do not know that answer.
Next question, does it work with QuickBooks?
So I think I answered that one.
I would like to know how a smaller district incorporates this into their workflow. What do they use it for? And we're gonna turn that over to James and Andrew.
Hi guys, I'm Andrew Wolf. I'm with Palouse Rock Lake Conservation District. I'm the conservation coordinator over there. We've just started incorporating this in the last several months. I guess probably since maybe November. One of the primary ways that we are looking and have been making steps to incorporate Smartsheet into what we do, and I think as Jess mentioned, we only have 3 employees in our district. But grant tracking is certainly amongst our highest priorities. You know, as a conservation district, most everybody running off soft money, we see it sort of as a product quality assurance measure, so that those agencies who are funding us are confident in our ability to account for and report on our grant progress and our grant tracking accurately and precisely. I would say one way in which we've benefited so far is that in trying to incorporate our grants into Smartsheet, we've really exposed a lot of our own district's faults, or if not necessarily faults, certainly inefficiencies, most of which pertain to grant management. Another way that we're looking to incorporate Smartsheet is more of our daily kind of things: timesheets, mileage reporting, vouchering, more of the menial tasks that we all kind of encounter through our days. I'm trying to read the question again here, make sure. Let's see.
So in your research, so the question is, in your research, did work management programs that might be better for smaller districts, 3 to 8 people? So I did a fair amount of research, and personally, obviously I've been living and breathing Smartsheet for the past year and a half. I would use Smartsheet even if it was just a 1-person district. It's just so easy to use, and it's so nice for tracking deliverables and communicating with people outside of the district. I know there are other good project management softwares out there, but as far as what Smartsheet's capable of and how diverse it is, there just isn't anything out there that's like it. So it's more of like, I can't answer that for anyone. It's more of, what do you need? What are your problems? And then you can do that research as far as, what software is best.
The nice thing about Smartsheet and the fact that Palouse CD has already created the wheel is we can concentrate more on driving the car. We can really use the product rather than having to build it from the ground up. And then we can go in and tweak things to make them personal to our district.
So one question was, can you share job grant naming convention? Absolutely. If anyone's interested, just contact me, and I can share that with you and how I went about naming those projects. One question is, can you have personal Smartsheets and district shared Smartsheets? Yes. So within any sheet, you can share, and you can make whoever owns the sheet, but then you can share and make someone an admin. So an admin can do everything that an owner can do except for retitle the sheet. That is what the owner can only do. An editor can make edits but can't create columns or just change the template of the sheet. You can make it an editor who can share the sheets. You can make an editor who cannot share, and then you can make someone just a viewer. So they're not able to make any changes to the document or the sheet. They can just click around in it. And then you don't have to share the sheet. So it can just be your own personal sheet. So Jen Bois, well, I don't know if our voice is working, but she is offering to, oh, it went away. Where did she go? So from here, I think we'll just probably wrap it up. And if anyone has any extra questions or suggestions on what they would like to hear at Wade, please email me. So my email is right here. So many windows. So many windows. Here's all my contact info right here. jessica.s@bluecd.org, and here's my office phone number. Feel free to call me, email me with any questions. I'm more than happy to help. And for me personally, I think it's extremely valuable for every district to improve efficiencies. There's always efficiencies that are needed. And project management software is step one, in my opinion, and with the experience that I've had in the private sector. It's just the basic tool that is needed to help ease everyone's job. And then the bigger picture is that the more efficient we are, the more conservation we can get on the ground. Less time spending, in spreadsheets and asking questions and just doing something 5 times because you can't remember where a document is. So yeah, with that, thank you guys for attending, and I look forward to seeing everyone at Wade.